Are you one of us who also want to see the Amazing Spider-Man 3 with
Brandon always asks the right questions.
I would love to see the Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Yes.
What was so wonderful was how Andrew was able to kind of make amends with the character in the studio.
This guy is the best.
You know, to kind of win the general public back. That scene where he saves Zendaya, like the fan reactions in the theater was so
he saved us,
spectacular.
Right?
He saved
It's emotional.
Zendaya saved us.
And obviously so would Andrew.
Oh, man, Brandon Davis, that guy is always getting the right answers. He just knows how to just slip in the perfect question. This guy is a master. Subscribe to this man. Welcome back to New Rockstars. Is it fair to say the MVP of Spider-Man No Way Home was Andrew Garfield? I mean, Tom Holland just fueled the speculation for another Andrew Garfield Spider-Man film in an interview with the always scoop-scoring Brandon Davis in the Phase Zero podcast over at comicbook.com. Subscribe to them. Great folks over there. And thank you so much to them for getting this great answer out of Tom Holland because yeah, we do need more of Andrew Garfield's heroics after he rescued Zendaya. Actually, we really could have used him on Euphoria last night because what the This is Inside Marvel. We should say it's New Rockstars weekly Marvel reaction show. No, it's not a Euphoria after show. I actually wish we had time to do Euphoria after shows,
One
but
of these days.
we just don't have time. Don't have time to fit it in. Also, it would be impossible for us to censor all that dick because there's a lot of it on that show. I'm Erik Voss. I'm here with MT. MT, thoughts?
Oh man, I need some more Andrew Garfield in my life as Spider-Man, and like we got all those teases at the end of the Amazing Spider-Man 2. They were promising a whole universe. So like, let's get it going, Marvel. Let's get it going. Come on.
They had plans. They're still there. The plans are still there. I mean, the work has already been done in Spider-Man No Way Home, I would say. And yes, we are talking about Spider-Man No Way Home because it remains the #1 movie in the world. It's breaking all kinds of records. It's about to surpass Avatar. You know how hard it is to surpass Avatar in box office revenue? So yeah, a lot of you are saying, you guys sure are milking this movie, aren't you? Well, yeah, the world is milking this movie. We're following the world's lead right now. You want to watch us make videos about fucking Moonfall? No. No one cares about Moonfall. No Way Home was just a massive event. It changed the MCU in every possible way, including the fact that everything we saw, you could argue, in the Tobey Maguire trilogy, the Andrew Garfield 2 movies, technically over 100 hours of narrative in the Netflix Marvel universe, possibly, arguably, MCU canon now. I mean, Endgame didn't cross over that much. It crossed over to its own universe. We have several different universes being crossed over. Add that to the fact that we had big purple cracks in the sky full of cameos. We had a crazy memory wipe spell at the end of the movie that retconned things, maybe? We don't really quite know. There's so much coming out of this movie. Symbiote goose slipping around the MCU still. Yeah. You're going to hear us talk about this movie for months and years to come because months and years of implications.
Oh my God.
Right? I mean, look, there's just still so much to talk about in this movie. We gotta it's gonna take us multiple weeks to figure this out.
Yeah, man.
And chief among all those questions is the fact that Sony has miraculously reinvigorated the franchises of Tobey and Andrew, and now Andrew Garfield, who's about probably to be an Oscar frontrunner, is perfectly positioned to return to his narrative as Peter Parker. We want it. Andrew probably wants it. Tom Holland definitely wants it. Sony has to want it. And last week we talked about a fourth. MT wants it? Make MT's birthday dreams come true. It's not your birthday. Your birthday.
It's in May, but it could be my birthday now.
You could announce it in May and give MT a birthday surprise.
Exactly.
Well, last week we talked about a fourth Tobey film, and what would a third Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie look like? We're going to discuss that. We're also going to talk about some big news we just learned about how the animated Into the Spider-Verse franchise might connect to this shared universe. How? I have no idea, but I'm very excited to think about it. But before we get to all of that, huge announcement this week, February 11th. You can see New Rockstars live show in Chicago. It's going to be me and Jess Clements and Tommy Bechtold, Philip Molina. We're going to mix it up with some fun surprises that we have never done here on the New Rockstars channel before. This is an event hosted by our partners at Rooster Teeth, part of their very normal podcast store. We're going to be sharing the night with the hilarious folks at the Face Jam podcast. Tickets are still available, so click the link in the description. And if you live in the Chicago area, we would just love to meet you in person. All right, MT, what is our question this week?
Well, we gotta ask it. What would a third Andrew Garfield Spider-Man film look like, Erik?
Now, MT, in a way, couldn't you argue that Spider-Man No Way Home was a third Andrew Garfield Spider-Man film?
Absolutely.
Mean, he did have a solid character arc in the second half of this movie. He began with freaking rolls being thrown at him. Lowest of the low. No respect for this man.
Couldn't dodge those rolls. Nope. Too fast.
Couldn't. Even MJ and Ned considered him, maybe there's a better Peter Parker out there.
They were not impressed by his ability to climb the ceiling. They were like, our Peter can do that.
Yeah, right. Let's keep swooshing and see what we find out there. He started this movie as Peter number 3, but he climbed his way up into our hearts as Peter number 1, I would argue, in our books, in my mind. When he and Tobey Maguire Peter counseled Tom Holland Peter about grief, Andrew Garfield Peter said that he never truly got over Gwen's death, that he tried to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but at some point he just stopped pulling his punches, he got rageful, he got bitter. This was truly a darkest timeline Peter Parker. This film's screenplay came out recently and included a great piece of exposition for Andrew Garfield Peter the moment he watched Tom Holland Peter and MJ embracing each other. The script says, quote, on Webb-Verse Peter, watching them with a tinge of longing, the kind of love he had and lost. And this is what leads to Toby to check in with him, asking, you have someone? And Andrew graciously doesn't respond, no, motherfucker, I told you I lost Gwen earlier. Were you even listening?
I like to think that Toby remembered. He was like, you have someone? Oh, that's right.
Oh,
I'm gonna cry.
Look at little Richard Parker Jr. Gonna cry.
Vertebrae's broken, gonna cry.
But no, this is such a wholesome moment in reality. Like, Toby tells him, I wouldn't give up. Which just feels like a step toward this guy thinking like, no, all is not lost. You know, this isn't just about rescuing this kid from another dimension we found. You yourself are worthy of redemption, which we finally get to see in this final battle. We knew this was coming from the trailer, and it felt so good to see it. Zendaya MJ falling from the scaffolding. Goblin swipes Tom Holland Peter away from catching her, and Andrew is just right there to catch her. He loses it when he does. She's like, are you okay?
So did I, Erik.
And we're all like, none of us are okay right now. In the script, I love how the script describes this moment. It says, overwhelmed with emotion, Webb-Verse Peter nods, having just relived the worst moment of his life when he lost Gwen Stacy in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but this time he prevailed. And I love that, like, throughout the script, they call these Peters by the directors of these old franchises. They call him Webb-Verse Peter, Raimi-Verse Peter, and he calls out the title of the movie, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. All these things now being kind of re-legitimized in the eyes of this story. In a way that breathes new life into them. And all of this catharsis is coming in with that pep talk he got from Toby telling him that he is amazing. The fact that he tells the other Peters that they feel like his brothers that he never had, that he loves them, even if they didn't say it back. But this also comes after his moment with Max Dillon, when Andrew kind of acknowledges the expectation that there should be a black Spider-Man. And the script also includes this great exposition. Webb-Verse Peter nods, there probably is, italicized there, meaning that's like Andrew Garfield's character's thought in that moment, but it's also just like phrased in this way to where it feels like the writers of the script acknowledging, yes, there is a Miles Morales Spider-Man out there. So as we look ahead to, hopefully, a third Andrew Garfield Spider-Man film, let's just like wipe the slate clean from whatever was planned for the next movie in this continuity. And MT, you were hinting at this. Just a reminder to everyone that Sony did have plans for a Sinister Six event with Dane DeHaan as Harry Osborn Goblin, Rhys Ifans coming back as Lizard, Paul Giamatti probably coming back as Rhino, and then Vulture and Doc Ock. And then the sixth member of the Sinister Six is either going to be like Kraven the Hunter, maybe Mysterio, maybe Chameleon. Felicity Jones was rumored to return as Felicia Hardy, Black Cat. Dennis Leary said in an interview years later that there was some kind of subplot in development that they might have planned to resurrect the dead people in Peter's life via cloning, including Captain Stacy, including Uncle Ben, Jackal? Including Gwen Stacy. Yeah, we aren't sure. That might have just been something that was pitched to him, but they pitched it in because his character was dead. They're like, no, we might bring you back. And he's like, how am I going to come back? And they're like, they're going to clone you. And he's probably like, I don't get it. It might have been cool. We don't know. But I think the best way to go forward is just to assume that all to now be part of Andrew Garfield Peter's past history. Like, he said he got bitter, rageful, stopped pulling his punches. Maybe that was just referring to when he beat to death Harry Osborn Goblin. And all that now is just like a previous chapter. And then his inability to get over Gwen's death could have been because of that whole unnatural cloning experiment that really reopened the Gwen wounds in a way that caused him to relapse into his grief. Maybe he was okay at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but then someone tried to play God, defy the laws of nature, try to bring Gwen back in this wrong way, and that caused him to go further and deeper into his grief and prevent him from truly finishing his stages of healing. But now, thankfully, Peter, if you think of this role for him as the Amazing Spider-Man 2.5, which I do, I think this was such a great arc for him in this movie. He's really his best self, returning to his home continuity. So 3 questions I want us to address, MT. 1, will Andrew Garfield be the Spider-Man of Sony's villain universe with Venom, Morbius, Kraven the Hunter, now Madam Web, we've learned? Will Andrew Garfield remember the events of No Way Home? Or did Doctor Strange's spell affect him too? And 3, that line about the Black Spider-Man, could that be directly setting up Andrew Garfield to be the Miles Morales mentor in the next movie? So let's take these one by one. Do we want and do we think Andrew Garfield is going to be the shared Spider-Man here of this universe? I guess in the way that like Ben Affleck Batman was the Batman of like the Suicide Squad 2016 film, who just kind of showed up foiling villains in other corners in other people's movies.
You know, I feel like this would be the smartest choice, considering that, you know, people really want The Amazing Spider-Man 3. They really want to see the continuation of Andrew Garfield's story. But like, I just can't I can't stop thinking about that poster in Morbius of Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, why is that there? Like, are we just having a shared universe? So I'm just thinking like, man, like I don't know what happened post the spell, but like I need that poster answered, like to some degree.
But you see, MT, I think that poster is the easiest Spider-Man reference in Morbius to just justify simply by saying, oh, it's just fan art. It's just fan art. It's just some graffiti artist just had this vision of Spider-Man in his head. It's not like, it wasn't a direct photographic recreation of what Spider-Man looks like in this universe. Because really, I think that's how the set designer approached it. I think the set designer was like, oh, we need to have Spider-Man being called a murderer in this universe, so let's just get us Spider-Man. We'll get it from the loading art from the PS4 game, and that was just the era, the Sam Raimi era of Spider-Man, but it wasn't a particular frame from that movie.
Right.
And it's interesting they called him a murderer because that could apply to this version of Andrew Garfield, right? Like Andrew Garfield said he stopped pulling his punches. He could be a murderous Spider-Man in that.
Oh my God,
universe.
that's so true. Like, cause like you there's definitely some type of chance that Andrew Garfield definitely murdered at least one person during those dark times, because we saw in the original trilogy with Tobey Maguire, even though he didn't technically kill his Uncle Ben's murderer, he facilitated the events that led to his fall. Let's be real. And also, Andrew Garfield wasn't there with Tobey Maguire when he stopped the glider. It was just Tobey Maguire. Right. Andrew Garfield was like,
let him do it. Finish him, kid.
He's like, I can take it or leave it, really. No, I think that it would be great for him to be the main Spider-Man, and it would be the smartest decision. But like, I still don't understand the poster in that Morbius trailer. What do you think? Do you think he's gonna be the main Spider-Man?
I think you're speaking to something that is just like a general confusion of what Sony's intention is, and they are kind of all over the map. I think what seems to be their intent is that Morbius is taking place in the same universe as Venom. Just the fact that Morbius trailer ended with him referencing he's Venom, meaning he knows who it is. There was that other line from Al Madrigal's character where he's like, oh, this is the craziest thing that happens in San Francisco. Like, I think despite the other weird things showing up in that universe, I think they want that to be the same thing. However, in the Morbius trailer, we see the Oscorp Tower. It has the same logo, the same building as what it was in the 2014 Andrew Garfield film. So I think Sony is saying that those universes are the same. They're like, we have our shared universe partnership with Marvel. That's the MCU. We understand the difference there, but everything else is taking place in the universe we've always been in. I just think the question is whether Andrew Garfield wants to do this, right? Like, the guy is hot right now. I don't know if he's going to want to just sign up just to do a cameo in some crappy movie. I think he's going to want to, like, he's a team player, of course. All musical theater guys are team players. Everyone, all these superheroes.
Every single one.
Musical. Make it a requirement that they've done a production of Tick Tick Boom or Oklahoma. No, I'm kidding. But like, I think Andrew Garfield, I don't know if he'll want to just do a quick cameo in something, but I would also argue Sony doesn't really need Andrew Garfield. They could just have a masked Spider-Man that they have anyone play in that suit and just doesn't say anything, just kind of waves and whips away. And then that's enough, I think, for a cameo in Morbius in the background or something like that. But Kraven the Hunter, I want Spider-Man in a Kraven movie, right? That relationship between Hunter and Prey is...
Bro, I would pay Sony twice the amount of money to see Kraven hunt down Spider-Man. Like, are you kidding me? God.
Yeah. And my thinking is, we've just gotten these reports of a Madam Web movie. Like, they're having Dakota Johnson play Madam Web. We don't know if it's going to be the Julie Carpenter or the Cassandra Webb version of the character. But, like, I would hope that you're going to embrace the multiversal aspects of Madam Web and have a lot of these Spider-Man variants come back, right? That would be my hope. So I think it's easy just to imply that Andrew Garfield is a Spider-Man of Sony's villain universe without having to have him make a direct cameo in every single one of these. But I think that should be kind of the rule going forward. I think that's totally fine. I think fans will easily accept that. And I think that's kind of what we want. And I think Sony honestly wants that at the end of the day. There's an argument to be made. I'm going to sound crazy. There's an argument to be made that like a year from now, we all view Andrew Garfield as a bigger star than Tom Holland. Nothing against Tom Holland. I'm just saying, Uncharted, I don't know how good Uncharted is going to do. Whereas
it's a video game movie. We'll see.
Right? It could do great. I could be talking about my ass. That movie could make $1 billion. We don't know.
Who knows?
But I'm just saying, like, all I'm saying is Andrew Garfield is back on the A-list. He's as big of a star now as he's ever been. So, but a question, just kind of a technical question. Yeah, will Andrew Garfield's character remember the events of No Way Home? How did this spell affect him? Did it affect the Peters of other reality? Did he forget that he himself was Spider-Man? Did he forget that that particular Tom Holland variant was Spider-Man? And if that's the case, what does he remember from the final act? Does he remember seeing this kid's face? Does he remember seeing a masked Spider-Man? Does he remember any of the Statue of Liberty stuff?
I have a feeling that only the Peter Parkers remember the events of No Way Home, and that everybody else that knew who Peter Parker was across the multiverse just completely forgot. Because we remember what Wang says in the movie, that the spell travels the borders of known and unknown realities. So I'm assuming that means the space between realities, and it can just go to any reality because it's that powerful of a spell. So I think that this is sort of Sony's way of just giving a blank slate to every single Spider-Man, and just be like, hey, anybody who knows doesn't know anymore. And like, I feel like that would definitely help propel their stories forward, because now all these Peters have to deal with the same sort of trauma of, my MJ doesn't remember me, what the heck? And like, why are we doing that? And like, I feel like that would definitely be in service to Maguire's story, especially because after we leave in Spider-Man 3, him and Mary Jane are not on like the best of terms. So like, we do hear that things do work out for Tobey Maguire, but like, if he lost his memory of everybody, then that would be such an interesting way. If they were to go like Spider-Man 4 route, that'd be interesting. But for Andrew Garfield, back to the actual topic, I feel like Sony needed this reset to happen for Andrew Garfield in particular, because of that weird plot line where everybody at Oscorp knew who Peter Parker was as Spider-Man, and it was like really weird, like the guys in the van, and it's just like, oh, we're following this kid, and like
it was part
just
of
like
a conspiracy that they wanted him to get bitten by a spider, maybe. So I just feel like Oscorp, that whole like weird Oscorp thing, they were like, let's just forget that, let's just retcon that, everyone forgot, and like now he can just be himself. That's interesting. I think for the most part, other people in other realities, their perceptions of the Andrew Garfield and the Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man have not changed. Like, people who knew still know, people who don't know. I think the way the spell at the end of the movie works is it has one subject, and that is the Tom Holland version of Peter Parker. That is the only person who about whom anyone's memories has been affected. But in terms of who the spell affects, in order to have that perception of that character, it affects anyone who is in this reality at the moment the spell was cast. But it does not affect people who are Peter Parker. I think, like, if you are Peter Parker, so it's like kind of like a double logic switcheroo. I honestly don't think the writers have thought about it that hard. I think it's crazy for us to even try to explain. I think the writers just did it thinking it would be the simplest approach, not realizing how many loopholes this would create. But,
everybody named Peter Parker just like, oh my God, everyone forgot.
Yeah, I think Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire need to remember, if you want to pursue a future with them, you need to just say like, oh, the spell didn't affect me, and they remember the events. But people in their reality who knew that they were Spider-Man, I think I'm okay with whoever at Oscorp still knowing that that Richard Parker's son is Spider-Man. Because my thing with that movie is like, it was just trying to do too much. And I rewatched it leading up to No Way Home, and I think whenever he goes down to that Roosevelt subway station, it just becomes a national treasure. It just feels so weird and disconnected from the rest of the movie. Yeah. We don't need that, but I think it's okay for Oscorp to be a conspiratorial organization that planned for Peter Parker to be bit. I'm okay with that storyline being pursued. I think it's a little weird. It does take away a bit of Peter Parker's accidental stumbling in to becoming Spider-Man. But we already have that in the other versions of the character. So like, it'd be okay now to have like, this doesn't have to be our one definitive Spider-Man. Like, we have other Spider-Man. If that's not our cup of tea, you have other people to approach. So I don't know. I love a Spider universe where Oscorp exists at the end of the day. And right now, Oscorp doesn't exist in the MCU. So I need it to exist somewhere, right? Like, I want to see Oscorp do evil shit. And this is a great opportunity to
That's the Oscorp's whole thing, doing evil shit, selling weapons. Come on.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, I think these Peter Parker, I don't think they would say that everything that happened with these Peters and other universes was also erased. I don't think Sony would want that to be the case. And I think whatever movie gets made after that, they're going to clear that up. And I think Sony would also say, I don't think if they ever pursued Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire again, I don't think they would have no memory of what happened. I think that would be a storytelling missed opportunity to do that. Sure. And speaking of opportunities, the third question, that line about the Black Spider-Man, it really feels like there's a great opportunity here to have Andrew Garfield, a character we've already seen be Spider-Man in Manhattan, now be able to be a mentor figure to Miles Morales in this side of the universe. Would you rather see Miles Morales introduced as someone in Tom Holland's universe or in Andrew Garfield's universe? Not to say that would mean Miles Morales could never appear in the MCU. Obviously, we all want that to be the case. We want Miles Morales to hang out with Hulk and Doctor Strange and everybody else. But should he be introduced as someone looking up to Andrew Garfield or someone looking up to Tom Holland? Or thinking those two guys are bogus and wanting to do things differently?
I'm looking up to Professor Xavier. I think that, I definitely understand like the reason for the question, because in the comics, Miles Morales was, of course, introduced in the 1610 universe rather than the main Marvel universe. So, like, it would make sense for a Miles Morales to pop up in Andrew Garfield's universe and then be introduced to the MCU, much like it was in the comics. So I think Andrew Garfield would make a great mentor for Miles Morales. And, like, because of that little moment between Electro and Spider-Man, I just feel like that is the thread that they could go with. It's like, all right, they're talking about a Black Spider-Man. We could just go introduce it in this universe and then like have our own little side little project while also doing Tom Holland and all that stuff. But we also know that Tom Holland is really wanting to pass that title of Spider-Man eventually before he hits 30 or something like that in his quote, because like he just doesn't want to hold on to that title of Spider-Man forever, because he feels like it should be something that a younger and it's more diverse person should have. So I definitely feel like an MCU Spider-Man, and again with the introduction of Aaron Davis in Spider-Man Homecoming as the Prowler, Miles' uncle, it just seems like those seeds are definitely laid for us to see an MCU Miles Morales, and I feel like more people would prefer Miles Morales just native to the MCU in general. So out of those two possibilities, for all these
characters,
out of those two possibilities, I feel like it's definitely going to be the MCU version. However, if we're going to talk about mentors, I say let's do all three Spider-Man as the mentors for Miles Morales. Why not? Like, and just I honestly just want to call it the Spider-Man 4, where it's 4 Spider-Man just mentoring Miles.
Crazy.
And like, it would just be like 3 dads just taking care of Miles. I would love that. That would be the best course of action. But what do you think?
I totally see that. It reminds me of like a live action version of Into the Spider-Verse, where you just have like a team of past experienced spider things mentoring Miles Morales. No complaints on that pitch. Here's my pitch for how I want this all to go down. I want Andrew Garfield to be implied to be the Spider-Man. I understand if Morbius is already wrapped, and you're just not going to fit him in there. But to imply, maybe that's already the case,
Right.
But when Kraven the Hunter, when that movie comes out, I want the Spider-Man that Kraven hunts to be Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I want to see what that really means, that people in this universe consider Andrew Garfield's character a murderer. And maybe he did make a lot of enemies in this world. He is kind of a rogue vigilante, someone who's gone too hard, and like everyone has turned on him. Not just the way people turned on Tom Holland's character at the beginning of No Way Home, made him kind of a figure who, he was able to get Matt Murdock to get him a pretty good legal deal out of all this. But what if someone is like, no, it's clear, like, you've murdered quite a few people. Was it justified? Maybe it was justified use of force, but this guy people are mad at him. And then, someone, J. Jonah Jameson, whoever it is, hires Kraven the Hunter to go after him. And then maybe that incapacitates Andrew Garfield. But through the events of that story, in the same way that, like, Miles Morales is introduced when the Peter Parker of that universe dies, he could step up to be the Spider-Man to take his place after that. So Miles is introduced on the Sony side of things. Now, I know we have Donald Glover's character in Spider-Man Homecoming. I honestly think we aren't going to see that. Like, I don't know if Donald Glover's going to come back in the MCU. He's too big a name. I don't know if that guy wants to play Prowler. Like, he's a huge name. He should, I don't think he's interested. So I don't know if they're going to introduce Miles Morales in the MCU. He's too big of a title for Sony. I think they want to introduce him on their side of things. And Andrew Garfield is a hot commodity right now to introduce these two together. And then they score a deal with Marvel to have Miles Morales show up in Secret Wars or some of these other crossover events. Then he can join the universe and they can kind of share him. But I think you have an opportunity now to have him be in the universe of Andrew Garfield. So Sony feels like they have more control over him. Now, that's not to say they're not going to consult with Kevin Feige or the Marvel team at all. I have a feeling that the same way that Feige and Pascal collaborated to cast Tom Holland back in 2014, 2015, I think you're going to see that same kind of collaboration to cast whoever's going to play Miles Morales. I think... I hope that Sony sees the value in Marvel's insight in their collaboration and their casting brilliance through Sarah Haley Finn. Yeah, right. So get her in the room, have her help you pick the right Miles Morales for this. And I think at the end of the day, it's all going to be part of a shared universe. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for these two studios to work together again to make billions and billions of dollars. But I think we're going to start with that. That would be my hope for how this all goes. And then you have a Madam Web movie that hopefully introduces all these characters. My hope for Madam Web is that, like, we truly do get to see a Nexus moment where everyone's just staying in the web of life and destiny, and she is kind of explaining the rules to everyone. I think that's very...
She's going to be the Nick Fury, man, of the Spider-Verse, the Blade Nick Fury of that of that section.
Well, we want to talk about some ways the animated Into the Spider-Verse might be crossing over into this live-action world based off of Lord and Miller, some quotes they said. But before we get to that, we want to thank Helix for sponsoring today's episode. Speaking of good sleep, the last thing you want is to be tossing and turning because you're on a bum mattress. Well, that's why you've got to get yourself a Helix mattress. Helix Sleep has a quiz that matches your body type and your sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. They have soft, medium, and firm mattresses. Mattresses great for cooling you down if you sleep hot. Even a Helix Plus mattress for plus-size sleepers. I have a Helix mattress. I love it. The quiz matched me with a medium firm mattress with lumbar support that sleeps cool. The mattress ships right to your door for free. No need to go to a mattress store. Just go to helixsleep.com/insidemarvel. Take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. They have a 10-year warranty, and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but you are going to love it. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/insidemarvel. We also want to thank ExpressVPN for sponsoring this episode. We all occasionally dabble in the not safe for work, party parts of the internet, you probably think that as long as you're in incognito mode, everything is fine. Well, not so fast. Incognito mode does not hide your activity, my friends. It doesn't matter what mode you use or how many times you clear your browsing history, your internet service provider can still see every single website you have ever visited. And that's why when you are at home, you should never go online without using ExpressVPN. ISPs in the US can legally sell your information to ad companies. ExpressVPN is an app that reroutes your internet connection through their secure servers so your ISP can't see the sites that you visit. ExpressVPN also keeps all your information secure by encrypting 100% of your data with the most powerful encryption available. It runs seamlessly in the background. You just tap one button and you are protected. ExpressVPN is available on all your devices, your phones, computers, even your smart TV, so there's no excuse for you to not be using it. Protect your online activity today with the VPN rated #1 by Business Insider. Visit our exclusive link, expressvpn.com/Marvel, and you can get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/Marvel, expressvpn.com/Marvel to learn more. Okay, MT, the other major Spider-Man news we got this week came from an interview from Josh Horowitz's Happy, Sad, Confused show. This is the same guy who got that infamous werewolf quote out of Andrew Garfield. Another brilliant interviewer who can just get the best quotes out of folks. This time, he talked with the Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, or the producers.
The gods themselves.
They really are amazing. Let's take a look.
Talk to me. I'm so endlessly fascinated on where we are in Spider-Man world, because right now there are two different Spider-Man multiverse Spider-Man franchises.
At least two.
Going.
Correct. Or are there? All the multiverse is big and wide, and all things grow in the multiverse.
I mean, all I'm saying, me as Josh Sony, the heir to the Sony franchise, would not want two different things. You would want it all to cohesively come together, wouldn't you?
This guy's good.
Why would you think a multiverse in which many things are possible that they're not related?
Right. That everything's possible except for this one thing that everyone wants.
Wow.
Yo, that is huge.
That's pretty big. I can't wrap my mind around how this would work. MT, let's talk about it. How could the animated Miles Morales connect to the live action Sonyverse and MCU, considering that's one shared universe now? Are we talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit type stuff, animation and live action? Are we talking about voices from live action showing up in this next animated film? What do you think?
Honestly, if anything were to happen, I have this feeling that the MCU would come to animation, because it's easier to translate live action to animation versus animation to live action. Because, I just don't think that, Haley Steinfeld in a blonde wig, I don't think she could pull off the Gwen Stacy look as Haley Steinfeld, even though she could pull off anything because she's amazing. But no, I think that, we'll end up seeing Tom Holland it's at some point during Spider-Man 4 maybe, or like some point in the future, Tom Holland falling into the shenanigans of the animated universe, and then he's going to probably be in part 2, if I would guess, of Across the Spider-Verse. Just judging by what they're saying, I have no clue. That's not confirmed at all. But I honestly think that, with this success that Sony has, like you sort of hinted at with the whole Sony wanting to do Miles Morales on their own. I think they might just want to take Tom Holland and be like, all right, we're just gonna make all the money on our own and just bring him in and just reap the benefits of our Tom Holland MCU deal. By just, having this story in the animated world be canon in the future. Like Tom Holland will reference it in the live action universe in the future and just be like, oh my God, he talked about Miles Morales and all that stuff. So I think that that's the smartest route. And it's the route that Kevin Feige has to do the least stuff with. He's like, all right, just take him and then do that and then you'll come back. And it's easy. How do you think it's going to connect? That's just me.
I think, remember, Lord and Miller did say after the 2018 Into the Spider-Verse came out that they wanted to do a cameo by Tom Holland and potentially Toby and Andrew. They wanted to have them just show up, just pop up kind of as a gag in that movie. And they were told by Sony, not yet. Let's not do that yet. It's too soon.
They didn't say
Sony
no. They
them,
said not yet.
They said it was too soon. And now we know why. Now we know why. They had plans to show them in live action. And now that they have, the gates are open. I think it's way easier now just to have Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire voice animated versions of their characters and across the Spider-Verse. We don't know fully what that story's going to be, but we know it's going to be visiting the Indian Peter Parker. We know that it's going to be, of course, going back to the Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man's universe, which means I think we're just going to see a lot of different Spider-Man variants in that movie. And of course,
it's called Across the Spider-Verse for some reason, right?
Right. And I think it's just going to say that, through the magic of the web of life and destiny, and I think characters just show up through Miles Morales' point of view, the animated Miles Morales, Shameik Moore's Miles Morales, in animated form. That's just like the texture of their reality is animation, but it exists in a Spider-Verse alongside a live action reality. And I think that's why they're showing us so many different forms of animation at different frame rates, different contouring, different texturing. I think the idea is that we may see a stop motion, universe. We could see one where it's like made with toys. We could see one where it's with 3D animation, right? Like there's so many different things you can show that would just show like all different media that we see on the big screen is fair game. And that includes a reality. It's just from Miles Morales' point of view in his animated world. This is what these Spider-Man variants look like. But he exists in a world. Now, would this mean that Shameik Moore plays Miles Morales in the worlds? No, I think there are other Miles Moraleses who are out there. I don't know. Shameik Moore could be great in this role. I don't know. I think that there's plenty of ways that they could just easily have these people exist in the world together. And I think Sony's want is to suggest that all these things are connected. Because the more connected they are, the more valuable each corner of this universe is.
How likely do you feel that the animated Spider-Man could show up in the animated Disney Plus side of Marvel? Because we have that whole universe where we have a whole multiverse of animation. So and we do have freshman year coming out in the future. So do you think that, we could have a crossover with What If or something, or the What If animation of the MCU to sort of be like, all right, here's them in the MCU now. I don't know. I'm just thinking about the MCU. That is
a fascinating question. That's a fascinating question, MT. It's really a legal question, right? I'd have to take a look at the contracts, but I believe, I don't know how Spider-Man freshman year has come about. I think anytime Disney wants to use Spider-Man and put Spider-Man's name in the title, that's a lot of legal coming to terms. There's a lot of profit sharing off that. And so they have to shell out a ton of money to Sony whenever they want to use Spider-Man in anything. I think it's likely that Miles could show up in freshman year. I think that's, if they're already having a Spider-Man show on Disney Plus, that would be the place that he showed up. I don't know if he would show up in What If. Because right now, it kind of ties the hands of the producers of What If they have to include Spider-Man in a specific way. I think the producers of What If are there's thousands of other Marvel characters we could show in episodes.
This is true, and they just got the X-Men.
And when Spider-Man showed up in the zombie episode, that was a very specific thing, right? The suit that he was wearing was the Disneyland version of the Spider-Man suit.
This is true.
If I'm correct. Yeah. So there's all these very specific things, and it was Tom Holland's likeness. It was not Tom Holland's voice. So there's all these specific things. I mean, and who knows? We keep seeing these mixed reports that in the future, Disney Plus has scored some deals with Sony to feature future Spider-Man titles on the platform. I don't know if that was referring just to freshman year or if they have other plans to maybe get the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies finally on the platform. I don't know. I think Sony makes more money to license these things out to Netflix and to these other platforms. But yeah, I think it is now more likely than it was before. I guess if the question was, could animated Miles Morales show up? I don't know if it's going to be the exact version of the Into the Spider-Verse animated Miles Morales, though. I think it's more likely to be a new version of animated Miles Morales, just because that Into the Spider-Verse universe is so precious to Sony. I think they like the idea that it's connected, but they want to be able to control that corner of it narratively speaking, and keep it in the hands of the producers, the directors, the animators who produced that 2018 movie, and rather than hand it over to a creative team that they didn't necessarily greenlight, you know?
It's true. And like, I think that during this interview or a recent interview with Lord Miller, they said that they were in close contact with, obviously, Jonathan Watts. They said that they were in close contact with John Watts and like the creators on No Way Home, and like to make sure that they were telling distinctly different stories. So
yeah,
like,
they don't want to step on each other's toes right now.
Yeah, so like they're gonna definitely want to make sure that their stuff is like unique and sort of like stands on its own for the most part.
Yeah, and I think despite the fact that we want everything to be connected tangentially, there's a real value in having these things feel texturally different as we're watching them. Like, how great was it to go into 2018 into the Spider-Verse and have it look completely different from anything we had seen in the MCU? The reason we're doing this in animation is you can show things that are way harder to show in live action. And just watching this trailer for Across the Spider-Verse, the realities he's flying through, the animation looks beautiful. I don't know if you can pull that off as well in live action yet. I don't know. VFX technology may get better and better, and we could show it and it looks great in live action. But right now, just animation, you can have the action words show up in Tamil, in Hindi. You know, that's so cool. You can just pull things off that you wouldn't necessarily get away with in live action. And I would say that also goes for Spider-Man freshman year. I think that's going to feel different from anything we had seen before, and that might be a good thing.
No, I just want MCU LeBron James to show up in the live action. I mean, in the animated Spider-Verse for no reason. Just do Space Jam. Just for no reason. Random LeBron James.
That would be a bridge too far. You'd have the Flintstones and Iron Giant. All the Hanna-Barberas suddenly would be part of this universe. Beetlejuice. I don't know. All the sideline cameos. Well, that is it for this episode of Inside Marvel. Don't forget to check out our many great merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com. Follow me at Erik Voss. Follow MT at MasterTainment. Subscribe to Inside Marvel wherever you get your podcasts. I think next week we may be talking about a Multiverse of Madness trailer that drops during the Super Bowl. We will see.
I hope so. Crossed. Let's go Super Bowl.
We will see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.
Love you guys. Peace.